Well, joining us to talk more about this issue is public affairs analyst Prince Willow Nyekachi. He'll be looking at the ultimatum given by Labour on the implementation of the 30,000 naira minimum wage. Thank you for joining us. Now, the Labour leader is saying it is untenable for governors to say that they can't pay this amount, and if they would have to do that, they are going to sack some workers.
Well, thank you. It's quite unfortunate at this point in Nigeria. The governors are saying that they cannot afford to pay the 30,000 minimum wage. For me, this is quite unfortunate because the other time the tripartite committee submitted a report to the president and they are of the opinion that the 30,000 minimum wage should be paid. Meanwhile, on the governor's side, led by Abdul Yari Aziz, the chairman of the Governors Forum, insisted that they cannot pay, else unless they want to risk their workers being sacked. I think that is quite unfortunate. In our opinion, look at it in Nigeria, the workers have all the right to demand for it. And then, for me, I feel the threat by the governor, forum does not hold weight. And I think it is not ideal for them to threaten the workers.
When you say does not hold weight, how do you mean? The governors determine what happens in their state?
Yes, because this is the time whereby, according to the president of Nigerian Workers, NLC, Ayuba Wabba, he said if they cannot afford to pay, they should resign. For crying out loud, these are people voted into power. These are people voted into power. Their aim and objective is to help the citizens. Like Thomas Jefferson said, he said the care of the people is the first legitimate objective of the government. So for the government to come out in their campaign promises that they are going to make life better for the citizens, for the workers, and at the same time telling the workers that they are not going to pay them, I think it's quite unfortunate, and the workers have every right. Now, let me give you an instance. In a state like Benue State, last election, there was something like a protest vote. The workers can do protest vote to them. Then if they know they cannot pay this, they should, rather than, instead of resorting to threats, intimidation to the workers, rather they should come up with modalities to see how to work things out. Yeah.
So what modalities would you suggest? Because some of the opinion that, workers and the governors should, sit and engage the labor unions in their state to see how they can come up with a reasonable figure.
Well, for some time now, I believe these people, the Nigerian governors and the labor leaders, most of the times they've met, it had been on deadlock. So what I'm trying to say here is they should work out modalities. Like, for instance, there are many ways which the governors of each state spend money. They waste money. And you can't blame the workers also for demanding this wage, like as I said earlier, because the rising increase of foodstuff in concomitant with the rising increase of
inflation.
So we've seen very well that things are not the way it used to be. So the workers should demand for their rights like they are doing. So the governors, they should just come together, put things in place. For instance, cut down the size of spending, like the NLC president said, though it might look like a joke, that they should cut down their salaries or they should use part of their salaries to pay. That, after all, is huge, exorbitant. So, in my own opinion, what they should do is they should cut down the expenditures and whatever budgets. Like, for instance, I will mention the name of, there's a Southeast state, a Southeast governor, which I won't mention, for instance, who is even ready to appoint commissioner of marriage and the rest. At least these things are not necessary. It's just an avenue to waste money. At least there are ways that the governors have been lavishing money. They can come up with modalities, cut down the size of spending, and then they can use all these things to pay the workers. They can look for measures, and it's quite attainable and it's possible, in my opinion.
As possible as it is, how, sustaining this, all of this has been another issue, looking at the economic situation that we have. That's another thing that people have been talking about. Is this 30,000 naira sustainable? Is it realistic? And so if you're saying they should cut down on their budgets and spending, do you think that they will be able to sustain this for as long as possible?
Yes, because I believe that for you, aspiring to be a governor, these are things you should have taken proper cognizance of. You can't just say because you want to be a governor, you don't know how to do this. You see, it's quite sustainable. There are ways, there are measures. They can even set up committee to look into these things. They can set up committees that will look into it, and at the end of the day, in fact, the truth is, if you look at some states, even now with the 18,000 minimum wage, there are still some states today that are owing workers.
And you expect them that they'll be able to pay 30,000 naira?
For crying out loud, these people are not then qualified to be governors, like the NLC chairman said. Then, therefore, they should be voted out.
Can the electorate push that through, voting them out?
We saw what happened in Benue State last election. They said it was protest votes. Yes, it's quite possible. You come up with your manifesto. For instance, these are the things we are going to do for the workers. These are the things. And then the electorate should be aware, and they should be well enlightened to know the type of person they will vote into power.
And when the person promises that he is ready to do all of this when he gets into power, and then gets into power and is not able to do this, how do they resolve it?
Well, we'll go back to square one like we are seeing here. But it's quite unfortunate, like as I said earlier. So the truth is they can come up with certain modalities, measures to put this in place. Because you cannot afford to say you cannot pay workers and you go to bed, you owe workers, you go to bed to sleep. It's quite unfortunate because this trend is quite unfortunate in Nigeria.
Really unfortunate, but we must thank you, Public Affairs Analyst Prince Will Onyekachi, for your time on the news.
Thank you.